Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Milltown Way. We're going to be looking at all things Shamrock Rovers, from the heights in Tallaght Stadium to the defeat on the road. I'm Ryan Brennan. I'm joined here by Adam Casey. Today we're looking at the defeat to St. Pat's, what lies ahead against Slovenian outfit Celj, and what's coming up against Derry City next Sunday.
Welcome to the very first episode, and we're all kind of new shows. If you could just share wherever you can, because it really does make a difference.
Our social media platforms, the same handle everywhere. So Facebook, X, and Instagram, it's the Milltown Way. So wherever, and this podcast will be available wherever you get your podcasts, so Spotify, Apple Music, and so on. So Adam, we were both in Richmond Park. I'll start there. Starting a high note, I suppose.
Yeah, well, we thought we were going to win it, but what can you do? Realistically, there's still time that they will win it, but it would have been nice to win it there on Friday.
It would have been, for fans, for Rovers, I suppose it would have been handy to repeat history. What happened in 2023, winning the league in Inchicore. The song got rung out a couple of times early in the first half. A lot of Rovers fans thinking it was going to happen. Waterford led Derry City 1-0. It was 0-0 in our game at the time when we were singing it. Didn't turn out that way.
No, and I think especially with Derry going down early, everyone in the stadium kind of felt that it really was on the cards. Like, it felt like even if we were going to get the draw, I didn't think Derry could pull out a bag. But then by the time Pats got their one and only goal, Derry had already equalised, and at that point Derry then took the lead as well, and things just got even worse.
Credit to former hoop Simon Power, probably rubbed a bit more salt in the wounds. 33rd minute in the round strike from him outside the box, cutting back in on the left wing, but he left Ed McGinty with a little chance of stopping that.
Yeah, it was about half an hour into the game, and it was the build up for the goal was really nice, but the strike itself, you cannot do anything about any of them. Ed could not have done anything. I don't think anyone particularly was to blame for the goal, but realistically in the first half we just didn't look as up to it as you should for I know it's not a title deciding game because we still have more chances at it, but for a game where you can possibly you can be taking the trophy home, which you want the lads to come out with a bit more fight in them.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, like, you look at the game and Pat set up well. I think they came with a clear game plan themselves, and Stephen Kenny, they knew what to expect. They knew Shamrock Rovers are going to put on the pressure. They'd look to get this done early. I think it's probably fair to say the Pats, for the most part, looked more like scoring, though, which is a little sign of worry there, because, despite Rovers dominate possession, stats came out, I think, around 64, 36, somewhat in that region for...
Yeah, it was 66-34.
66-34 for Shamrock Rovers in terms of possession, but it didn't really, apart from half chances here and there, a couple of efforts that went astray over the bar, particularly one from like Dylan Watts from distance. It didn't particularly, until the end, it didn't necessarily look like Shamrock Rovers had it in them.
No, well, all of our chances, I felt like, did come in that second half, really, when we were kind of fighting for it towards the end. But yeah, Pats, they had their game plan, they stuck to it, they knew exactly what to do, and they stuck with it. And once they got that one goal lead, they just sat on it well. But they didn't just sit back the whole time. They did have a few other chances, especially Mason Mealy had a chance, I think, just before halftime, where the keeper, I can't remember who took the first shot, but it was parried out, and then Mason Mealy put it over the bar from close enough. Like, realistically, he probably should have put it away, and it should have been 2 at that point. But
it's games like this, I suppose. When you look at Mason Mealy, you look at for Shamrock Rovers, you look at Victor Osinvuna, these young talents that come through, and they have these moves that are coming up to England. Osinvuna will be going to Arsenal. The year after next, you have Mason Mealy who'll be going to Spurs soon. When you're seeing them in the flesh, you're just reminded how good they are. We're not, for Shamrock Rovers' point of view, you're not watching Mason Mealy on a weekly basis. But when you see him again there, you kind of just, exactly why he's making that move, don't you?
Yeah, and you can see for such a young lad, he has like a very good footballing IQ. He's making runs, and he's making movement that you don't see often from a young player. He's kind of got an awareness, and even there was times in the match where you can see him kind of making a shout at some of his other players, which to have kind of some leadership traits like that in such a young lad is really a good sign. You can see, and especially Pats fans love him and obviously sing his praises, but when you don't get to see him, a player like that play every week, it's more of a novelty to you. You kind of do appreciate how good he is and why he's making that big money move over the Spurs.
Yeah, I think the other thing I noticed just back on how Rovers themselves performed on Friday night, 1-0 defeat, and it was just you know bookings bit where the referee wasn't afraid to flash them, and I don't know if that also kind of suggests there's a little bit of frustration on our part for Shamrock Rovers, because you have Sean Cavanagh, Darren Nugent, Matt Healy all getting booked before the interval. It just kind of makes for viewing that there's frustration on the pitch. There's a sign that we couldn't really get to grips with the game, even though when you're there and you're seeing them with possession, it was just, I think that was more of a sign of when we didn't have possession. It was quick. There was a quick turnaround from Pat where they were on the counter attack, and
Yeah,
they definitely looked like they could, offer something. Melia had chances and so on. And Keane Levy, they struggled to cope with Pat sometimes on the counter attack.
yeah, it felt like a bit of frustration from the situation. Obviously, with the Shells game the week before as well, they had a chance to take on to wrap up the league, and they didn't. But it kind of did feel like there was a bit of frustration that when Pats took that lead, some of the Rovers lads were quicker to leave in a foot or something, or just quicker rather than chasing a man all the way back and sticking with him, just fouling him early. Like 3 cards in the first half is not really a good thing for anyone, especially 3 lads at the back going into a big second half. You can't really have 3 of your key defenders and key defensive players having yellow cards, and there was 1 or 2 who were probably lucky to get away with not getting a second bucket in the second half.
I think definitely something that I've noticed is after the defeat to Shelburne and defeat to Pats is how much the defence can kind of miss Roberto Lopez.
Yeah, he's definitely mixed, and obviously he wasn't going to be there.
Congratulations as well to Roberto Lopez on not only qualifying for the World Cup with Cape Verde, but also him and his wife had their firstborn.
Yeah, which is great, but yeah, he was never going to be there, and he probably will be back in the squad for Thursday. I'd say he'll be starting Thursday, but yeah, you do really notice that when he's not there at the back. Like, it's his leadership, his presence, just everything he does for that back line. It's a hard gap to fill when he's not there.
The other player we missed on Friday was Joshua Honahan. He was out through injury. Stephen McPhail spoke to club media during the week, which they said they'll kind of reassess on match day to see if he was going to be in the squad. Evidently, he didn't turn out not to be in the squad. He wasn't on the bench either. He's another player whose impact is really, you can really feel it when he's not there. And there was obviously it resulted in Sean Cavanagh slot going into that slot, but for Sean Cavanagh, he's not used to game time this season. He's not really within the squad. He hasn't been in Bradley's thoughts, I don't think, really until recent. He hasn't been required, but because this is what happens every season. More games are being played later the stage of the season with the Cup, the League, Europe, and he's had to come in. There's no criticism for him, but it's just a case of it's big shoes to fill. Josh Honahan's there being linked away with moves to England. He's getting into the Ireland team, but I suppose it just does go to show how important Honahan is in this setup.
Yeah, well, he's had a really big season this year. He's been exceptional all year round, realistically. And as you mentioned, getting the call up to the Ireland squad. I know he didn't play, but still getting called up was going to be a massive privilege. And it's a testament to how good he plays, especially considering it's not very often, especially under Jaime, that and League of Ireland players are getting into that squad. I'll have to check if I'm correct, but I'm pretty sure he might be the only one to have been called up under Jaime's reign.
Yeah.
Or at least in this campaign. So the fact that it's a testament to how good he's been that he was called up, and it's hard to replace a player of that quality and whose impact is that great on the squad.
He's someone I think, Honahan, I don't think we'll have long left with him, which is obviously a terrible thing to hear, and for Rovers fans, for Rovers' perspective, because there will be a big hole in the squad when he leaves. You look at like, when we're looking at depth, and we talk about this all the time at the games and stuff, but it's a case of when you have Sean Kavanagh coming in, you know, we probably could have done with a second sign in that position, because it's for when you get to the latter stages of the season, you do need that strength and depth. You have Darren Nugent on the right wing back. I think you kind of notice a bit more. He's played out of position there. He struggles a bit more to cope with the game.
Yeah.
When he's played at right wing back, it's not where it's not where he normally plays. You have Adam Matthews coming in there too. But when you're putting them up beside the likes of Josh Honahan, there's just no comparison. You have Sean Kavanagh, and he made his second start this season. The first one this season came against Longford in the Cup, and then before that, it wasn't since Waterford away in August of last year. So when you're putting him in there, and you're up against an opposition like Pats, who are hungry to get a win, not only in the Dublin Derby, they have home advantage, but they're also battling for Europe. They're still trying to get into them European slots going forward, and they play Pats. At the time of recording, they'll be playing Pats tomorrow night. This will be released on a Monday, so tonight. But yeah, they have a lot to look forward to there in that case. And particularly, they came into the game, I saw, on the back of 2 straight defeats. They lost to Sligo in the league, and then that big loss to Cork City. They lost 3-0 in the Cup semi-final. That would have definitely bruised the squad. And you look at it in two ways. You can go one of two ways. You can kind of say it's the best time to play them. In one way, they're down, they're not in form, but the other side is just 2 weeks since that 3-0 defeat. They've had time to kind of regroup and, kind of put their head out a little bit on a swivel and say, no better way to get going again out of the box is by beating Shamrock Rovers at home.
Yeah, and also stopping them from winning the league adds something else to it. Like the fact the Rovers won the league there 2 years ago in 2023. For a matter of pride, you don't want a rival in your city winning the league in your backyard and two times in 3 years, realistically. So there was obviously that in it as well. So they had a bit more fight in them with that, and coming off obviously the big loss to Cork in the Cup, and then, as you said, the Sligo loss before that. And now after that win, it does put them in a position where it is unlikely they might get Europe, but still technically on the table now.
They'll also be hoping we do the business.
Yeah, and especially with that game against Bows now, when this, as a recording, it's tomorrow, but when this comes out tonight, that's a big game for both sides in their push to try to get Europe. So I think Pats, it will be hard to beat Pats at the moment. They seem like they have a little bit of bounce back to them, and they've got something to fight for now at the moment.
Yeah, like particularly all the Shamrock Rovers Dublin rivals will be hoping that, essentially we'll all be hoping that we beat Cork in the Cup final as well.
Yeah, that's true, and that'll obviously be after the league is done. So we'll have the league decided, and it's another big day as well that look forward to, but it's not going to be no easy day out either.
The other one that I wanted to discuss, I know, was the man's impact to replace Sean Kavanagh on Friday evening was Rory Gaffney coming off the bench. Two shots, 2 on target, but them 2 shots, it doesn't sound like much, but when you play 26 minutes of football plus whatever was added on, I think what was it 7 minutes and 9 ended up being
7
played.
and they ended up playing the 9, yeah.
So in the round that, but Rory Gaffney coming on, he made a good impact, making good runs in behind. Got offside, I think, once or twice, but he definitely made Joseph Anang work then, where we kind of struggled prior to that to make him work. Where, as I said, dominating possession, shots that are going off target and not making the keeper work for it. But Rory Gaffney, he forced some saves.
Yeah, no, he was very good when he came on. Like, as you said, saying 2 shots on target doesn't seem like a lot. When you're playing 26 minutes of football, and also when the team only had 4 shots on target in the whole game, the fact that 2 of them were coming from him within just 26 minutes of football showed just how big an impact he had when he came on. And if you were looking at stats, it might not seem like much, but from a viewer's perspective, you could see the impact he made. Like, he was making big runs down the wing, and the pace he has still at his age, and also at his size, is exceptional. Like, and then towards the end, he did force a very good save out of Joseph Anang, sorry. And yeah, that was just one of them days where it just any other day that would end up in the back of the net. But it was a good save that he got down well to. But not much you can do.
I've seen Rory Gaffney come into some criticism online from supporters, particularly after the Shelbourne game when McGovern came on. He made a strong impact where he took on defenders and kind of ran at them. But for Rory Gaffney, I just always think back to how impressive the story was that he missed more or less all of the 2024 campaign, left supporters and left, I would imagine, more than just supporters thinking he'll be announced his retirement at the end, and to come back and kind of turn it all around, he forced himself into Stephen Bradley's thoughts of saying, he forced himself into starting 11 and being so impressive. I think you need to cut him some slack. He's also scored, on the other hand, he scored 9 goals this season. He's definitely a workhorse in that, isn't he?
Oh no, 100%. And like you said, he scored 9 goals, but he's also in the league. He's only started 12 games, so he hasn't started as many games, and his minutes wouldn't be as much as some other strikers. But the fact that he still managed to get 9 goals, and as you mentioned, after missing a full calendar year really of football, and I know for myself, definitely thought that the retirement announcement was coming, and I'm sure others in the club did, but no, he's still battling, and his impact when he came on was exceptional. Like, for example, he had 100% pass. Actually, I know he wouldn't have played many passes in 26 minutes, but he wasn't coming on and making any mistakes. He was coming on and he had a big impact. And the biggest show of that was that chance he had that unfortunately just didn't end up in the back of the net.
I think towards the end then, probably everyone was left thinking that Graham Burke's effort and goal was going to loop into that top right corner.
Yeah,
and
that was
confirm the title.
Literally the last kick of the game. It just felt to him. Well, he done well to even get a shot off in that situation. I didn't even think he'd get a shot off, and I feel like everyone thought that was just, at least all the Shamrock Rovers fans thought it was just going to dip into that corner after he hit it. And I'd say he thought the second he hit it, saw his name in the lights and thought that he was just taking the title home for Rovers. But
I think you could definitely see in an expression where his head kind of went in the jersey straight away, and he kind of realised you don't want to say severity, make it sound as if this title shouldn't be getting wrapped up next week. Third time lucky, missed 2 opportunities. Part of me does think there's a little bit of complacency amongst the squad. I know Bradley retains a mantra of kind of, it'll happen when it happens, and barring a miracle, it will happen. But at the same time, if you think back to the Shelbourne defeat, and we agreed to play that game during the international break where we knew we'd be without Roberto Lopez and Michael Noonan, I can't help but think there just is a little bit of complacency where I think they wouldn't, prior to the Shelbourne game, I don't think they would have believed. Now, obviously, they're going to have the confidence in themselves, but I don't think they would have believed that they're going to lose back-to-back games at home to Shelbourne and away to Pats.
No, definitely not. And also just the fact as well that, as you mentioned, with the Shelbourne game and them playing it during the international break when they didn't technically have to, it does feel like it is complacency that they kind of think they've already won I don't wonder, is it the thought of they already think they've won the league? Because, as you said, barring a miracle, it's going to happen, and it still probably will happen, but it does feel like maybe in some of the players' heads, and it's hard to control every single player's head, especially from a manager's perspective, that they think that it's already wrapped up and they don't have to go out there and give it their 100%. And especially because they're at the end of a long season, especially with Europe last year, they didn't have long off in between the start of the league this year and the ending of our conference league season last year. There wasn't a long break at all, so they've been playing realistically consistent football since February of 2024, and 2024 without much of a break. So that has to be bearing on the lads as well. And then also the thought of that they have the European game this week. They've got the cup final. Feels like some of the players maybe perhaps are trying to conserve themselves for them big games. Not that the Pats game or the Derry game upcoming or any of them are not big games. It's just the fact that these other games, there's a bit more on the line considering everything that's come up before this.
Yeah, I think now the other side of the coin is, look, if they didn't play Shelburne during the international break, when could they have? When you think the game has to always be played prior to the last game of the season,
Yeah.
generally, I don't think any league anywhere in the world really likes to play another game after the season's officially ended. You want them all to be, for different reasons, relegation battles and title races, European races, and so on. That they wouldn't have wanted it. Like when you think of it, there's 2 weeks between now and the end of the season. Like, real, if Shamrock Rovers didn't agree to play Shelburne, then the only other opportunity probably would have been Monday evening.
Yeah.
When you think about that, because you have Europe Conference League on Thursday, Derry on Sunday, Galway Wednesday, Sligo Saturday.
Which again is a lot.
A lot of games.
A lot of games after such a long season.
Yeah, I think they are probably just coming to the end of the tether in some ways, but of course they also need to have that a full tank for Conference League games, which we'll move on to. Thursday night, back in Tallaght Stadium against NK Celje, Slovenian side. Shamrock Rovers faced them last year in the Europa League qualifiers. We lost 1-0 away from home, won 3-1 in the second leg at home, and that was after extra time.
Yeah, I'd say most remember that, who were at the game remember that day against Celje when Graham Burke scored the winner in extra time to take us through to the next round of Europa League qualification, and unfortunately we didn't end up qualifying for Europa League, but it laid the groundwork for us to make it into the Conference League and have the historic Conference League season that we had last year.
NK Celje definitely in good form, unbeaten in all competitions. They currently are top of the league, of the Slovenian league. I'm not going to try pronounce the name of that, but they're top of the league. 12 games played, 10 won, 2 drawn. Definitely something to kind of slightly maybe worry about for Shamrock Rovers on Thursday night. It's not going to be, it won't be as straightforward anywhere. I don't think it'll be anywhere near as straightforward as when we did play them in Tallaght last time. Even though it was only settled after 120 minutes, I still don't think we'll get that type of performance again on Thursday night.
No, and especially after them getting off to a good winning start against Athens as well. And Athens as well haven't been having a bad start to the season. They're sitting third at the moment in the Greek league.
Another team that Shamrock Rovers make the trip to.
Yeah, so they bet them 3-1 with Kovacevic getting a hat-trick, the Croatian striker, and he's been in blistering form so far this season as well. He's got 10 goals in the league.
10 goals in all appearances, I think, in all competitions. But as well as that, Celje they're currently 6th in the Conference League table. It doesn't mean much after one game of a 36-team table, but with that game, the 12 they played in their own league, there's a lot to think about for Stephen Riley, I think, preparing for this game, and it doesn't come at a great time when you're on back-to-back Dublin derby defeats either.
No, and especially Celje could have some other tough games down the road as well in the Conference League. 6 games isn't a lot. You don't have that extra benefit that I suppose the Champions League and the Europa League have of having them 2 extra games, because 2 games can make a difference when it's a group of 36 teams. Like a lot of movement. You could see it, for example, with the last match week of the Champions League last year. There was a lot of movement on that last match week between teams. So then you don't have the benefit of two extra games. So losing 2 games right off the bat or winning 2 games off the bat is massive in this competition. And they have big games coming up, like they're playing Warsaw at home in the next game. And then, of course, they play Shelburne in their last Conference League game Thursday just before Christmas there.
I think on Thursday we might see another piece of evidence to see what works better in these European competitions. When you look at Celje coming into this, they're only, similar to most leagues, they've only started their campaign. As I said, they've only played 12 games in the league. They're coming up against a Shamrock Rovers side who will then have 3 games remaining in the league. There's definitely going to be a difference of, there's a slightly more kind of, I suppose, freshness to the side. You'll expect it from Celje as opposed to Shamrock Rovers, who are coming in after playing 33 league games, cup final on the horizon after playing a few rounds of that. Already haven't played a Conference League tie, which we didn't do too well in last time out. which is to be kind of expected when you go to Prague. They're a very good team, top European outfit who are always in a regular feature in the European competitions. But yeah, it's just you can't help but think it's going to be another piece of evidence to see which does better. Is it better? Are you better starting with that September kind of around then calendar year going until May, or Shamrock Rovers coming into it now, having started in February, playing footballs in February, and are near the end of the league campaign.
Yeah, it's hard to judge. Really, it is it is really hard to judge. Obviously, a majority of big European leagues and a lot of ones that people will be used to is the kind of traditional mid-August to kind of end of May type of calendar. But obviously, the League of Ireland is based on the calendar year from February to November, realistically. And in my opinion, I definitely think it is an advantage for teams who play the more traditional way with the September to May calendar, in the fact that Rovers, as you mentioned, 33 games in the league, couple of rounds in the cup, and then, as I mentioned earlier, a very small break in between seasons because of the Conference League and the way the league starts back up. Like Rovers' first game back was in February. They only wrapped up the Conference League around not long before that, so they're coming off.
We were knocked out of the Conference League. Was it the week after the league started? Yeah, because it was the last. Shamrock Rovers were knocked out by Mold and penalties.
Yeah, we started the league on the Sunday. That was the Thursday.
Yeah, and that was the last time also Shamrock Rovers lost back-to-back games. Shamrock Rovers lost to Bohemians 1-0 in the Aviva in that game that had 33,000 fans at it, which was obviously a good sign for the league. A little bit of build it and they will come. But at the same time, then that was in the Aviva, and then Shamrock went to Tala, lost to Mold, 1-0 after extra time, and then it was separated on penalties where it was Aaron Green's penalty that decisively decided the game, and that was on the end of a really good run in Europe as well, because you've Shamrock Rovers who such an impressive campaign and made history by being the first team to get past the initial stage of a European competition in recent years. So there is that, but is that going to be enough to carry us into the Celj on Thursday and the 4 other games in the Conference League and the league phase this year?
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but you'd also think that, especially with that loss against Pats, the lads, I'd have a feeling might come out with a bit of something to prove. They've lost their last 2 games. They're coming into a big European game. They kind of, not that they need to prove something, but it feels like they might have that in them, that they're like, we need to show why we are who we are and why we're competing in Europe, why we're in a cup final, why we're facing a potential another league title. So it does feel like they've come out with a little bit more fight in them then against Celj. But as you said, Celj have gotten off to a great start in their league and unbeaten in all competitions. And some of their players have been exceptional, especially their striker, who, I don't know if I'll say this right. I'll try to pronounce it. I think I might have butchered it already earlier.
Yeah, give it a go.
Here we go. Franco Kovacevic, something like that. He's 10 goals so far this year, a hat-trick in the Conference League in his last out, and then it's going to be hard. You have to think, will he probably come out again trying to get a few, and how do you stop a player like that?
You'll fancy his chances, I think, as well, coming up against a Rovers defence that has, at the moment, it's impacted by injuries. As we've touched on, you would expect that Roberto Lopez will be back in the fold for that. It's a case of whether will Josh Honan be in there, will Danny Grant return back to return back to the fold. The other interesting aspect of Celj was that they've actually come from the first round of qualifiers. They started off in the Europa League and came through that way.
Similar to us last year.
Yeah, whereas for Rovers, because Drogheda United had been kicked out, Shamrock Rovers obviously got that boost then into the second round of qualifiers. It's that one last game, but some of the wins Celj have had in that, they've lost, like Lugano, who are a well-known Swiss team and would feature quite regularly in Europe. European competitions, whether it be the Europa League or the Conference League. They won 5-0 away there in their first leg, and with the Conference League qualifier. And again, Franco Kovacevic, I'm going to go with.
Hopefully.
He scored a brace in that game. They ended up losing the return leg, but still won 7-4 in aggregate. Like, that was a lot of goals in that game, and Kovacevic was on the score sheet again. So he's definitely going to be one to watch for Shamrock Rovers, and the likes of Roberto Lopez, Daniel Cleary. They're going to have to be on top of their game. But I suppose the other side of the coin is you have Lee Grace coming back from injury. He missed the game against Shelbourne, so he's definitely going to be something they're going to all need to be in that starting 11 too. And that's probably as well what Steve Bradley's thinking of when he's picking these lineups for the Pats games. Definitely, like, Europe will take priority over them because of how much it's anticipated that Shamrock Rovers are going to win the league. There's that outside chance that they won't. It obviously would require a heavy defeat next Sunday against Derry City at the Brandywell, but other than that, like, you're expecting them to win the title, and therefore you're going to have them three centre backs on Thursday night are going to have to be Roberto Lopez, Daniel Cleary, and Lee Grace. They're our most informed. That's what it's been for most of the season when there's no injuries involved, and hopefully Josh Honahan and Danny Grant can occupy the flanks.
Yeah, hopefully. And back on Kovacevic once more. It's his first season with Celj. He's originally with a team in the third division in Germany, and he was out on loan, then out in Korea too. But it's his first season with Celj, and just looking at some of the stats, including the qualifiers for the Conference League and the Europa League, he's played 18 games for Celj now with 20 goals. But like, that's hard to stop. It's in the league, 10 games, 10 goals. Like, it's going to be hard to contain that, and the Rovers back forward's going to have to be really on top of their game that day to try and contain a player like that.
Yeah, that's actually, you're right there. I made a mistake earlier in saying that was 10 goals in all competitions, but no, yeah, they're going to have to be in form. They're going to have to dust themselves off of these recent defeats. It's just a test of character, really. Our Shamrock Rovers defenders, the type that are going to let themselves be influenced by it. Roberto Lopez won't, because he didn't feature in the two games, but it's just a case of, will that kind of sit in the back of their mind? I don't think it should. We've seen enough from this team and these players to know that they're top professionals, and Stephen Bradley insists on it in each interview he does. He speaks very highly of his players, as you would expect, but it's definitely a case of this will be a test of their professionalism, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Can they dust themselves off and forget about that for now and just focus on what is it too early to be saying it's a must win? I'm not too sure. When you look at our upcoming games and the Prague defeat, going to Athens, that won't be easy. So I'm not sure. I don't want to preempt it and say no, this is a must win. It's only our second game, but at the same time, I'm kind of thinking with the result we had last time out and the upcoming fixtures that we have remaining in the league phase, it's quite important.
No, it is, and it's definitely not ridiculous to say that this is a must win. Because like we were saying, it is 6 games. If it was 8, you wouldn't. After 2 games, you wouldn't write a team off. But with 6, it definitely can be. It's not that you'd write them off fully or not. It's not like you're saying it's over now come Thursday if Celj do get the win. But it's a mountain to climb. Then it's, especially with the games they have to play. They have to play some good teams in them remaining games. Like going to Athens, Shakhtar Donetsk in
that. Yeah, that's the other one.
They were a perennial Champions League team for a long time. Like, I remember them being in the Champions League for most seasons, kind of early 2000s, so early 2010s and all. And then Breidablik as well, tough game. So it's going to be tough. Like, they don't. It's not a must win, but it is as well. It's hard to phrase it, if you get me.
Yeah, well, Shakhtar Donetsk again. There, not to discuss that too much. We'll discuss that in another episode when it comes closer to the game. But even they've played 9 league games at present. They've only lost 1, so we're coming up. We haven't got the luck of the draw this time.
No,
not to say we did too much last year. We had some favourable draws. last year in the league phase when you had the trips to Larne and the new Saints at home. So it's important. Our home games are crucial. It's yeah. So set again like Selge and the more I'm thinking of it now, I think the more I think maybe I'm leaning towards it's nearly a must win. Again, like what you're saying, I'm not going to be leaving Tallaght Stadium on Thursday night if we don't win, saying that's it now, it's over. But yeah, we might be leaving ourselves with a little bit of a mountain to climb.
Yeah, and as well the fact it's at home, so like it was away against a tough side like Selge. You could see them if they got a draw. You could see them being happy with a draw, but the case at home, and especially some of the teams that we have to play away, like Breidablik away, and
another team we were familiar with.
Yeah, and then Athens away. We have to take advantage of these home games where we can. Like, it's only 3 home games. We need to take advantage of that atmosphere and the being in our own backyard and try and get a result. Like, a draw isn't the end of the world. A loss isn't the end of the world, but we really do want to be going out there and getting that win on Thursday.
It would be, I don't like, it's tricky, isn't it? Because it's one of them that you look at it and you kind of think it's the second game, it's early, but I think if you actually kind of stop and look at it, and if we were to leave Tallaght on Thursday with a win, it would actually be it'd probably go a long way because you have 3 points after 2 games, still to play Breidablik, still to play Hamrun Spartans, which are a bit more of the favourable draws that we have in the remaining games. But then there's Donetsk and there's Athens as well. Take it back to obviously this new, still relatively new league phase that we have. You kind of want to look at then as well what makes you qualify in this league phase, how many points are required. Like you look at last season, TSC, Mold, Ammonia, and Selge all finished on 7 points, and that got them into the knockout stage playoffs. Obviously, Shamrock Rovers finished on 11 points, and it was only goal difference that separated Shamrock Rovers from not qualifying straight away for the round of 16. But it's them fine margins, and each game counts. And like you look at we talk about goal difference, and obviously Shamrock Rovers' goal difference took a hit going to Stamford Bridge on the last game the league phase last year. Expected, Chelsea went on to win it. They're top outfit, but like it's one of them that you kind of look at and you kind of think it's fine margins, particularly in this league phase, because you look at as well. Hearts also finished on 7 points last year in the league phase. Goal difference stopped them from going. Their European journey ended at the league phase because of goal difference. We were in the case that goal difference just stopped us qualifying straight away for the round of 16, going through the playoff. But then again, evidently we got knocked out playoffs.
Yeah, you look at it again with looking back at last year, they got off to a good start. But it is fine margins. For example, when they got the late equaliser, Dylan Watts' late equaliser against Apoel.
Huge result.
That was a massive draw.
I think that was the start of
with 10 men as well.
Yeah, I think that when I saw that result, I definitely looked at it and just think I think it may probably change a lot of people's opinions. There's people that don't rate the League of Ireland and what have you, but particularly when I saw Shamrock Rovers getting the result, I'm sure my instinct was I think a lot of people who do not maybe rate the League of Ireland, don't follow it, whatever, for whatever reason, that I think they might have seen that result and just thought, oh, okay, this is Shamrock Rovers drawn against, because Apoel are a really good outfit, Cypriot side that are always in Europe as well, like regular features in Europe. So yeah, I think that definitely pushed Shamrock Rovers a bit more on a stamp, and we beat Selge, so it's a bit more. I think a lot more people think that Shamrock Rovers should be beating Selge, but as I said, as we're noting here that they've made some huge improvements since last season. A lot of investments gone into their side with signings such as. Do you want to say his name again?
Kovacevic.
There you go.
I think that's it.
But yeah, so like things like that might not be realised at the time, and if you're willing to look at it, if you're willing to dig a little deeper into the Selge side, you would probably look at it and say, well, we beat these last season. We knocked them out at qualifiers in Europa League, so we need to be doing that again on Thursday. But it's definitely not as straightforward as that.
No, and as you said, they invested in the summer, and their squad did get considerably better. And that is shown through their form that they're in, unbeaten in all competitions. And over the summer, they did bring in a lot of players. They brought in a good few players on free transfers. And they brought in one or two. They spent a bit of money on one or two players. They brought in a new centre back for about 100,000, about 150,000 on a midfielder, and then getting a bunch of players on free, including Kovacevic. His fee was never disclosed, so it's unsure exactly what they paid for him. But I don't think it would have been too much coming from a third league German side. So they did improve their squad, and their form at the start this season and their red hot start is really shown. Their improvements are shown through that red hot form, and we bet them last year, but it's going to be difficult to go out and get a similar result this time round.
We'll leave the Celj talk for the moment because we won't have a podcast between Celj and Derry City clashes. We'll just somewhat briefly touch on Derry City and the trip to the Brandywell next Sunday in a 3 p.m. kickoff. At the moment, it's hard to say after we go back-to-back defeats. Don't know what we're going to get on Thursday night. It's hard to anticipate what we're going to get.
Yeah,
Sunday either.
It's a big game, and with it being a Sunday 3:00, it has big game written all over it. Realistically, it's a game that
it's on Virgin too as well.
There you go, and it's at 3:00 on a Saturday. On a Sunday, people should be tuning in for that. With it being on national TV as well, free telly for everyone. Like going there, and Derry have everything to play for. If Derry do not get a win, that's it for them. That's their hopes, and even if it is already small hopes, as a player, you would have to be thinking, if we can beat them, there's still a chance. We have to do all we can. So from a Derry's perspective, they're going to be going out there to try and get a result, and not only a result, they will be out there to try and get as big a result as possible and try and close that goal difference gap as much as they really can.
That's exactly it. I think like if you're Tiernan Lynch and you're setting up your Derry City side on next Sunday, I'd definitely be, if it was me, if it was my club that was in their circumstance, you'd want to be thinking, if they score, like say for example, if they scored and they took a 1-0 lead, you'd want to be hoping, you'd be thinking they'd be picking the ball up out of the net and going back to the tip.
Yeah.
They'd be rushing because they need a comprehensive victory.
They need as much as possible. And
like a 2-1 win really is no good to them.
No, they need to be getting as many goals as they can. And you do think that some of the players especially will have that thought process as well, that if they get a goal, to instantly get back and get it going again, and to just try and just do all they can to really just push and try give their fans that bit of hope going into the last weekend. Try finish this weekend with Derry fans having a tiny thought in their head that if they win on the last day, there's a chance. That's what they want to be able to do this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. For Derry City, they're on after 90 minutes. They're on an unbeaten streak of 9 games. They did lose to Drogheda United on penalties in the FAI Cup. Who Drogheda United then evidently went on to play us, and we beat them on penalties. But it's like, yeah, I just can't help but think like Derry City are in good form. They've definitely. It's a little bit. You would nearly think it's a little bit unusual from Derry City because they've just been more renowned to kind of. They've been renowned to kind of collapsing towards the end. You see the title race last season where it was, for the most part, you would have said it was Derry City and Shelbourne of who's going to win the league. They kind of fall away, and then they end up missing out in Europe.
Yeah, last year it did feel like a 2-horse race for a lot of last season. Rovers kind of only entered into the title race towards the end, and obviously when Stephen Kenny was appointed at Pats, they were in blistering form for a while. They really excelled when he first took over and won a majority of their games towards the end of last year. And you have to think that there's a little bit of spite in Derry, that the fact that they were a little bit of anger in them, that they were fighting for the title all year round, and in the end they didn't even get Europe. They finished 4th.
Lost the cup final to Drogheda.
Lost the cup final. Like, the back half of last season couldn't have went much worse for Derry in terms of falling from title challengers to outside Europe. and losing the cup final that you think they're going to be wanting to do all they can to make them, to prove to them fans that they can compete and they're different this year than last year.
I definitely think the form they're in now shows they can compete for league titles. They definitely, like last season, there as I said, as what you just said there, was more or less a 2 horse race. Them and Shelburne, Shamrock Rovers were the outsiders and pushed it to the last day. This season, it's mainly been Shamrock Rovers. Shamrock Rovers dominating the league table for the most part. Derry City were in third for a little while. Bohemians were second. And as I've said, they're unbeaten after 90 minutes for the last 9 games. Their last loss came against Shamrock Rovers in Tala on the 3rd of August, where Rory Gaffney bagged the double. But at the same time, is there a little bit of, there's no pressure. There has been no pressure necessarily on Derry. The only thing there's been pressure on is for their European hopes, which more or less I think are going to be cemented. I can't really see them falling out of a European place now. If Bohemians were to be Pats on Monday night, maybe you'd say different, but even then, it's still, again, that's a very outside chance. So, is it Derry City? Just there's no pressure on them. They're the outsiders. Pressure, as I said, it's just only on Europe, but at the moment, more or less, nearly guaranteed that they're going to be in Europe. So, particularly if Shamrock Rovers win the FAI Cup final against Cork, but it seems to be the league has seen a different Derry City team because there's been, in terms of title talk, they haven't been really mentioned.
No, like similar to last year, I never really mentioned in it too much last year. Everyone kind of thought it was Shells to lose last year. Like I know Derry were competing, but Shells.
Yeah, Derry were second in name.
Yeah, they were never truly felt like they were in the actual race until it felt like Shamrock Rovers were in the race more than Derry, because right at the end, that's probably a biased perspective, realistically. But
yeah, I'd say by the very end, it was Shamrock Rovers. There was probably just like as we just said, there was 2 horse races with Shelburne and Derry. Shamrock Rovers the outside chance, but I would say that the opinion of most supporters that were outside of them 3 clubs was, if anyone was to dethrone Shelburne off the top of the table, that Derry City didn't necessarily have what it took to do that. Even when I look at Derry City at the moment, I don't see, like, the form they're in now. That's a league winning form if they can sustain that over the course of the season. But it's just it seems to be a little bit reactionary in their dressing room.
Yeah, that's the real thing. Can they sustain that over a full season? Like, they've finished second in 2020. They finished runner-up in 2022 and 2023. You'd have to think that if they do it again this year, that's finishing second in 3 of the last 4 years. You have to think there'll be a bit of frustration in the club at that. And you'll have to think that, for example, even going forward next year, they'll want to come out all guns blazing and try and do all they can to get that title that they haven't had since the 90s, realistically.
It's one of them. It's similar to like when you're looking at when you're watching your team play a football match, and if they're coming into form towards the latter stage of the first half, and you think half time's coming at the wrong time, you could nearly make the argument that the end of the season's coming at the wrong time for Derry City because they're hitting this good kind of rich vein of form, and like the form they're in, there's definitely something there that they say they can show. Now, the other side of the coin, Sligo Rovers, when they played that at the 4 p.m. the same day that Shamrock Rovers played Kerry in the FAI Cup semi-final, that was a 94th minute winner.
Yeah.
94th minute winner, which, like, for Michael Duffy, who has been really good this season, himself and Adam O'Reilly have done, or more or less, the Derry City can thank them for being in where they are. But so there is a little bit of a little bit of luck on that with the Sligo game in isolation, maybe. But yeah, for sure, that I think if you look at this now, we got the same maybe feeling off Pats, as you were saying at the end of last season. Stephen Kenny had them really playing really good football. They even won 3-0 at Tala. So the thoughts of fans, I think, at the end of this season will be Derry City are going to be the ones to watch coming into February and the season starts again. But it can just very easily change. It doesn't look, and there's a long break, isn't there? And then you have Shamrock Rovers and Shelburne who are going to be playing football until Christmas, whereas you have everyone else Obviously, you have Cork who will be playing the cup final the week after against Shamrock Rovers. But other than that, everyone's going to be having a long break and no
Yeah.
football in between to fill that gap.
Yeah, you do that. That's definitely true. Like, you have to think, how are they gonna? It does feel like it's coming at the wrong time, as you said with Pats last year. But then, as you said, they're getting these wins. Like, they got the win against Bows, where the 4-3 win they scored in the 74th minute. They drew with Drogheda and they drew with Shelburne, but getting that last minute win against Sligo and then again coming from behind against Waterford, it does seem like they have that bit of fight and they think that they have an outside chance at doing this.
Michael Duffy is the third top goal scorer in the league. He only comes behind Padraig Amon and Mason Melia. That's something in itself. Now, there's no Shamrock Rovers player until Rory Gaffney. He's joined with Graham Burke. So, these are numbers that you want to be thinking, yes, it'll be great for the club that they'll likely be in Europe in the European qualifiers next summer. But the other side of the coin is, I'm sure Tiernan Lynch is looking at this form saying, where was this earlier in the year?
Yeah, Michael Duffy as well leads the league in assists, 10 assists as well to go with them 11 goals. So
21 goal contributions.
Yeah, that's more than anyone in the league. So you have to think as well, this form, yeah, as you said, they have to be asking where was this form at the start of the year. But yeah, a player like Michael Duffy as well, it'd be hard for him. He'll be coming out wanting to get a goal, or more than a goal, realistically.
A few goals to try.
One, to help the team, and also from a selfishness perspective, you're hoping that maybe he could leap ahead in that golden boot race.
Well, that and just to reduce the goal difference between the two sides.
Yeah, there'll be both of them.
So yeah, there'll definitely a few reasons to be trying to put as many goals past Shamrock Rovers. Which, look, I don't necessarily see that happening.
No,
this is the third attempt Shamrock Rovers have directly had, and that's it. They've had control over to win the league title. The other one came when Derry City would have had to not beat Sligo.
Yeah,
that didn't happen. So that's out of their control. And the same with when Shamrock Rovers beat Bohemians. Derry had to lose to Drogheda that day. They drew. So there are two opportunities that were out of their control, but these are Shelburne, Pats, and now Derry next Sunday. That's 3 opportunities that Shamrock Rovers will have had to win the league title. Does it go on to Galway on the Wednesday after?
I hope not, and I can't see it will. I don't think it will, but yeah, 3 times. It's already happened twice. He says it doesn't happen a third time. Hopefully, third time's the charm, realistically, and hopefully we go ahead with it, and that's come 5 o'clock on Sunday. Shamrock Rovers will be champions, but it's not guaranteed. It's definitely not guaranteed.
There's also the aspect of any Shamrock Rovers supporters that'll be travelling down. I'm sure there'll be a lot more Shamrock Rovers
helicopter,
fans.
probably, yeah.
Yeah. Some might be hanging out at the bottom of the helicopter when Stephen Bradley's going from the marathon.
He should have just ran to Derry. That should have done that extra distance.
But the other side of the coin is obviously you'll expect a lot more Shamrock Rovers supporters to be in Derry on Sunday now, because Shamrock Rovers didn't win the league title against Pats.
Mm-hmm.
The other side of the coin is Shelburne won the league there last season. Derry won't want that to happen again. But the message of concern would be seeing Derry City supporters throughout the season with nearly nothing short of what looked like rocket launchers as supporters of the away supporters. It's not. It hasn't looked safe to go down there. And I would definitely be saying, these travelling supporters going down,
be safe.
Just be safe and be cautious, because it's Derry City supporters will probably have an extra bit of
something behind them,
anger, if they see Shamrock Rovers are winning the league there.
And we know it's not all Derry City supporters. It's just always that select few who have to ruin it for everyone else and give the rest of the Derry City supporters a bad reputation. But definitely as well, with Shamrock Rovers selling out their away end when
not sold out, yeah.
Not sold out
now. The Shamrock Rovers liaison officer on Twitter put up that they took down the ticket sales. That was just kind of redacted, and that it's going to go back up on Monday. That the club will issue an email to all supporters about another kind of nearly like another resale, I suppose, of the away end.
But you expect it probably will sell out to season ticket holders and members of the club.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably want to be down there to see that happening.
When originally they expected it to go all the way to general sale because
Yeah, like if Shamrock Rovers had won the league on Friday, I think definitely you would expect general sale there in the away, and it's a long way to travel. It's 3 o'clock on a Sunday. It's not
it's
not really
it's
the
a
most
long
ideal
drive.
slot.
No.
Myself included, trying to look at flights back from Birmingham on Sunday morning. But yeah, so
Fire a
maybe all
helicopter.
me and Stephen Bradley and Glenn Cronin might be on a helicopter together. I'll just be hanging out holding on to it. Something like Ryan Gosling now.
The Fall Guy.
Out of Fall Guy, yeah. But I suppose we'll leave it there then for Shamrock Rovers talk for this week.
Yeah, that we've managed to preview the 2 big games coming ahead up, and then had a bit of analysis on the previous game. So yeah, a lot's been discussed in this episode, and feels like a good way to start first episode.
Yeah, it does. We've hit it at the right time. But yeah, that's it from now. Rovers, 2 big tests this week. Selge on Thursday and Derry away on Sunday. We'll be back on Monday, so we'll record the episode on the Monday after the Derry game, and we'll hope to have it in your ears on Tuesday morning.
Yeah, with just a bit of a delay with the bank holiday,
But that's it from us. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks so much for the support this week of the launch of the Milltown Way. It's first week in existence, and we've had good support, and we want that to continue. Just make sure to follow us wherever you get. And we're on any social media platform, X, Instagram, Facebook, at the Milltown Way. And be sure to like, share everything with this podcast.
Yeah.
The Milltown Way.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. The support's been tremendous for our first week, and we hope it continues, and hope to keep bringing some good, high-quality content to everyone. And yeah, if you could share it, as you mentioned, it's at the Milltown Way on X, Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you're going to get your podcasts. So hopefully,
I wouldn't be saying high quality content.
I forgot some of your stuff.
I wouldn't say you've read any of it.
I read it all, mate. But no, yeah, if you give us a follow, a share would be greatly appreciated. New pages, shares actually do make a big difference, and so do likes and everything like that. And I know you probably are like, oh, I hate when people are begging for likes and stuff, but no, it does really make a difference. But we want to thank everyone for the support throughout this first week, and hopefully it keeps going.